leave space for questions. Maybe we can postpone if we want to run too much out of time. So I'm going to move quickly towards the conclusions. So giving you the next 5 minutes an outlook and what we can bring out of that. So basically the main output, as we saw before, is characterization. It is a library of characterization factors. This library of characterization factors is going to be implemented at different scales for different scenarios, different reference scenarios, different units of measurement, and for different length cover classes. We will then upload these libraries in our website once we have validated them. The fact that we don't have yet published these results hampers to leave those numbers yet in the website, because we don't want to transfer data which has not yet validated within a peer-reviewed process. But this will come soon, because we have several publications under preparation, as I will show you in a while. Anyway, the user will be prompted to our website, where can download different files for different scenarios, for different references about all the characterization factors that we have calculated, and then use those libraries, enter those libraries in LCA software and directly use for performing LCA analysis. Such as, for example, I just took within the framework of the Work Package 4 of values an example of how to apply those characterization factors in an LCA model. These just come from a previous FNR projects called Lucas, developed in the between 2009 and 2013, where the idea was to evaluate the land use change effect related to an additional amount of maize production for bioenergy purposes in Luxembourg. Several scenarios have been created at that time. To see up to 2020 what could happen in terms of different environmental impacts if this amount of maize is produced. We can then apply our characterization factors for that time horizon, was 2020. So we run the model that we saw before. We obtain characterization factors for 2020. And we applied to the different scenarios that have been developed at that time. And we can see that there are different trends depending on the different hypotheses behind those scenarios. I'm just now focusing on just one, which was about the implementation of an additional demand for maize at 80,000 tons with all crops undergoing land use changes. And in this case, we can see different patterns. For example, in the service of crop value, we can see that depending on the land use change which is in the background, you can obtain very different values to be assigned to one crop instead of another. And the same can be recorded for the other processes which are in the background in an LCA model, and for, in this case, the value of carbon sequestration, which is more, which show to have positive values in the case of a land use change which is related to forest instead of other land use changes which are more related to crops production, and so on and so forth. This is an example for the value of meat associated with different land use changes over the different crops. I can go into the details, but it's a bit late now. So we had then to, of course, disseminate our outputs. We attended several international conferences, meetings, and then we already published some works which you can go through if you're interested. Just to point on two works. One is the one presented before by Benoit on the a critical review to give us the overall understanding of where to go. This other publication comes with the work in collaboration with Duccio. My mentor, which I mentioned at the beginning, was about how to use a spectral heterogeneity approach in the evaluation of biodiversity, which is still related to a way to gather data to implement in our model. And then we have other publications ongoing, which we are going to submit by the end of April, in line with the project proposal goals. And then, of course, there is a PhD dissertation of Benoit, which is going to be soon. I didn't say anything. Then other type of outreach activities we did. Another workshop we organized as a side event in the very big international conference on ecological sustainability, the Eco Summit, which could generate further lines of reasoning to support the preparation of a special issue, which is really forthcoming, on the human-nature nexuses. So this is how to bring this knowledge about interactions into a peer-reviewed volume. So several authors, different from different parts of the world, contributed to these special issues, and you can see then in the next months what has been done within this special issue. And then we were invited also to be part of a task force on cross-cutting issues and ecosystem services within the UNEP CETA life cycle initiative, which is a kind of, for us, good recognition for the work we have done in values, because the aim is to provide recommendation for LCA users on how to model and quantify ecosystem services in LCA. And then the work done in values could also generate some project follow-up activities, notably more related to the urban ecosystem services side within the other two very interesting projects which are now ongoing, and we run up to 2020. And we will also talk a little bit about this later on, the intervention of Fernando. So, just before conclusion, 3 take-home messages and 3 answers for what to do in the next future. Of course, we have seen that it's very difficult to model the complexity of the ecological economic modeling systems, but this is something that seems necessary. Otherwise, we forget important aspects like ecosystem services. And we have demonstrated this is feasible in the LCA framework. Nevertheless, we need to work additionally to try to translate this kind of modeling exercise into practical tools for supporting the decision making. We developed an original approach to predict ecosystem service trade-offs and synergies associated with the land use. This is done for the first time to the best of our knowledge. At the same time, we should expand the number of ecosystem services evaluated in our accounts. and we could also go a bit further in considering other impact drivers other than land use. And finally, we think that an extensive knowledge base has now been reached, at least for Luxembourg, on how to evaluate the impact on ecosystem services within LCA, but also related methodologies of environmental accounting. So we are still working on how to combine different approaches, different tools to realize this interdisciplinary approach, which we think it's the best basis to address these next important challenges related to ecosystem services. With this, I want to thank all the team of the Values Project who worked within the last 4 years. And thank you for your presence. We can go to take a coffee now, and we will see in the next session for the after value what we can do out of this. Thank you.